Larry, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Gene, so you're not here to be an associate member?
No,
Oh,
I,
we're gonna wait.
Oh, we're gonna wait on
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna wait. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. But are you planning on being one?
yeah, I just showed Cliff my letter I'm giving to the selectmen tomorrow.
That's right, you need to do that.
Yeah, I do.
All right, thanks. All right, the first order of business, everybody have their agenda?
Yep.
And thank you, Kirk, for the information that was sent to us. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
First order of business tonight is 706, 708 Haverhill Street, Jim Bussing. It's an ongoing single house development on a shared driveway, and our planner, Kirk Baker, and Larry Graham, our review engineer, has gone and conducted site visits to ascertain that the driveway items have been addressed, and so Bussing is requesting release of the surety associated with the project. So, do you have anything to say?
I talked to Larry Graham, he couldn't be here tonight, but Larry, I talked to him because I went out there myself and took some of these pictures that you see here. This is the primary issues that Larry had with the last.
These aren't really the issues.
Yeah, he had just mentioned that the landscaping was on that rear lot 706 had not been done as of the last meeting, and that there was an address that needed to be or an address plate that needed to be put up on the house, and so those have been done. And the reason he was concerned about the landscaping was because the surety is really about the road installation, the shared driveway, but he was concerned that there would be additional truck traffic that might actually have impacts to the road. But now that all that's complete, that shouldn't be an issue anymore. So Larry he said that he's okay with the current condition of the road. And
What kind of truck traffic are you talking about?
bringing the plants.
Like loam and plantings, and potentially like, the rocks for the wall there and stuff.
Oh, just, okay, regular.
Yeah, the construction aspect.
Yeah, the house is finished. It was just concerned that some of the associated landscaping vendors and contractors would affect the road, but now that's been finished, so that's not an issue. So, this has been ongoing for a long time.
Is Larry going to do another site visit?
He's going to, but I mean, I showed him the pictures that I took today,
Yeah.
and he said, considering all that he was okay with it really last time. He was just concerned about the truck traffic, but now that all that's done,
Oh.
that it's pretty much.
I would think you're still gonna, what kind of heat they got? Is it electric heat?
What,
I
for,
mean, you can have oil deliveries or gas.
oh, there's always
deliveries,
going to be
I mean,
Oh,
it's
deliveries,
always
yeah,
gonna be
no, we're talking about him, no.
construction.
We're just making
traffic.
sure that the driveway is finished according to what Larry, it took a long
Yeah.
time for them to complete
Yeah.
some fencing on the driveway, just the, getting the grading right, just.
Well, that's not gonna be paved, that's gonna be gravel, isn't it?
Yeah,
Gravel
it is the
driveway?
way it is right now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
It's supposed to be gravel.
Yeah, there's some Conservation Commission items that were associated with that property as well, which is why it's a pervious driveway.
Yeah.
If they're gonna pave it, they would have to go to the Conservation Commission, I believe. So, I have a motion.
Make a motion to release the surety?
I have a second.
that motion?
Second by Chris Thornton, motion by Cliff Pierce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are you still on your own? Are you abstaining this time?
No, I agree.
Is that an aye? Okay. We're getting closer.
I guess just to be clear that I can go in and let Ken know that he can issue a CO for.
Right. According to whatever, other issues, as long as all of his inspectors have signed up. And then you'll be getting a backup memo from Larry as well for the file.
Yeah,
which is-
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
We have a representative from the cell tower?
Yes.
Okay. And there was, if we go to if we look at that, I mean, this, we had some discussion last meeting, obviously on, and this applies as well, that, you know, in certain situations, they would not have to apply for a site plan review and go through the formality of public hearings and so forth and advertising in the scope of the section 6 of, what's federal law, 6409A. So you can explain why this falls within that scope? And,
Yes, I think so. First of all, good
and
evening.
come on down.
Good evening, my name is Dan Klasnick. I actually,
You're the counsel.
yes, I am. Liz Thompson, who also I work with, was kind enough to prepare and submit the letter.
And
And
we-
I'm on the letterhead, and
We
I
have
actually live up here in the North Shore, so I was down here.
There is a detailed letter, and if you, it's in your packet, and it has engineering plans for those structures that would be,
I also have the 1x17, so
Okay,
if
thanks.
anybody wants to.
I'm sure, I mean, if people want to look at those, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so,
We printed them anyway.
yeah, I think part of what
Forward on to look at them.
Mr. Klasnick is going to talk about is explained in the letter quite clearly, so. Thank you.
Initially, I guess, I would first note that T-Mobile, that's the wireless service provider, Crown Atlantic Company LLC, that's the tower owner.
And
And
just,
basically,
just for clarification, this tower is the one off Smith's Lane, right?
I have an address of, it's on the town of Rowley property at 124 Havel Street.
So
Oh, it is town property?
Yes, this is
Okay,
the
that's-
last tower that's located
Yeah,
on
the town leases it
to Crown.
That's a blessing.
But currently, T-Mobile is installed in this tower. They actually have 6 antennas that are located at the height that the proposed replacement antennas are for. So there's already, as you know, there's already an existing tower. It's all, I think most of the wireless service providers, Verizon Wireless and AT&T are all there. The compound has all been established. But as you can see in the plans that I just passed out, T-Mobile, as part of the upgrade in its equipment, I don't know if other of the wireless service providers have come to the town yet, but a lot of the wireless service providers are in the process of upgrading their system for 4G service, and this necessitates them to replace some of their existing equipment. So currently, T-Mobile has 6 antennas installed at this tower,
too.
at the 178-foot height on the 180-foot tower, so
Page
they're
three
the
shows.
top center line height. And all they're proposing to do is to replace those 6 antennas with 6 new antennas that will support the newer technology that they're proposing to implement. And in addition, they're going to be adding within the existing compound, they already have a pad area where they have an equipment cabinet. That's on sheet, and if you want to look at
This one, the first.
A2 is the detail for the proposed equipment plan. They currently have one existing small cabinet located within the fenced-in area. They're going to add an additional cabinet on that same pad. They're not going to expand the compound or need to dig, trench, or do anything because it's already built out to support that. And in addition to replacing the 6 antennas, adding the new cabinet, we're going to run a new fiber line
Yeah,
from the cabinet up the tower.
So A1 kind of shows
Yeah, that's
a bird's eye view or a site view of the pad, right?
yes, you have the other wireless service providers, some of them have equipment shelters, but T-Mobile only deploys cabinets. So then A2 shows to the left what they have now, which is the one cabinet, and then the one to the right shows that they're going to be adding a cabinet. They just need to add some additional radio equipment to support the antennas. And then if you go to A3, the next page, that's the elevation view of the tower. So, excuse me, T-Mobile has the top height, and the antennas are sort of darkened there, and it just provides a description. And then further on A4, the next page, once again, is a plan view or a bird's eye view of, at the top is the existing antenna plan, the bottom one is the proposed antenna plan. So it's going to basically be removing 6 antennas and putting 6 new antennas at the same location, the same height, with the additional cabinet.
It's kind of fascinating technology.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of this stuff that has to happen. You would think that they do need to replace antennas to support the different technologies and sometimes slightly different frequencies. So in regards to, I read your bylaw, and I think it's arguable whether even under your bylaw you would need to come before you, because they're not actually adding equipment, or they're not actually co-locating. All they're doing is, it's almost like a maintenance function.
Right,
You know, so it really would be something that seemed to be appropriate for the building permit only, and certainly they would apply for that. But to the extent that we were asked to, we also provided analysis of the new federal law that passed in 2012.
And that is B1 in your package?
right.
Basically, what happened here under these circumstances was there was an effort to expedite these types of co-locations. In some communities, there's, I guess, a lot of resistance, not Raleigh, obviously, but other communities. So this federal legislation was thought to be necessary to expedite that process. So where someone's coming in and co-locating on a tower, for instance, or what we're doing here, just replacing some equipment, the federal law preempts state and local law and says basically you cannot deny, and then to emphasize it, say you must approve if it qualifies under these items. So we went through and sort of emphasized how the T-Mobile install would be an eligible facility because it's a modification of existing equipment. And then they talk about if it's a substantial change, and there's some criteria that they look at, and we listed each one of those. And clearly T-Mobile is not even coming close to implicating any of those, because that would require them to increase the height of the tower by more than 10 feet or add or expand the compound, that sort of thing. So I think under both your bylaw and under the new federal legislation, this is something that should be exempt.
Do you, this may be semantics, but do you want us to approve this affirmatively, or just to decide that you're not required to get any kind of planning board review for this?
Well,
Thank you for asking. I was thinking the same way, because we...
Yeah.
I think what was put on the agenda was the idea that there'd be a declaration that it's something that didn't require site plan review. Some
So the
communities have
building
taken the
inspector
So
position,
we'll just go to the building inspector.
Yeah. some other communities have taken sort of an administrative approval without public notice or anything like that. You can just do it that way. So I think the idea was to allow, I don't know if it would be just a verbal okay to the building inspector, or we get a letter that we could.
Email or...
Yeah, I'd probably just email them.
There'll be an email, there will be a document email that would be at least a paper trail.
Yeah, and that would be something I could provide to my clients so that they would, have that notice.
You want a motion?
Sure.
I
I appreciate this. Oh, no, but can you give a little background just why they are here? I think that we're seeing, this is a backup. The building inspector would appreciates the fact that in each of these cases, that the criteria are met, and it's met in writing, that's all. And since the planning board is the permitting, authority, the building inspector defers to us on that, and then we go back to him.
Right.
So that's just kind of how, because of the bylaw.
Sure.
So it's just being cautious, and we appreciate your time. I totally agree with you, but,
As much as it might seem
conversation.
almost unnecessary based on the language in the law, I guess it's important that we agree with you that there's no substantial change, and therefore
And we have
we don't
the
have to
backup.
do a site. Right.
And we have the backup.
But
No, absolutely.
the one thing that, actually, I think we at some point have a discussion about how we view these things in the future, but one thing that is there any noise emitted by any of this equipment, and is there any change in the noise that might be emitted if there is any?
No, not from the T-Mobile. I mean, there's going to be a small fan
Uh-huh.
they would have installed in these cabinets just to cool it,
Mhm.
but no, there wouldn't be anything.
Nothing substantial.
Nothing more than what's there now. You
Okay.
probably have generators and that sort of thing at this site, I would imagine.
Sure,
Some of the
that-
bigger carriers, like Verizon Wireless, they typically have a generator.
And Raleigh's fortunate in that they have utilized some fairly remote sites for
Yeah,
this.
this one is very remote.
So T-Mobile is one of the most least impactful of all the carriers, just because
I
of
see.
the nature of their install.
Well, we wish them lots of success. Take a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that due to the fact that this is presenting only a minor modification to the existing cell tower, that the
The
board,
criteria are met, yeah.
that the board decide not to require the applicant to go through the public hearing process.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, take care. Have a great night, thanks for your time. And any questions at all, Kirk Baker's our planner, and just for your client, you can get an email or a memo, whatever you require for your client.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Thank
thank you.
Do I go through that door, or?
You can, yes.
Have a good night, thank you.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, in the future, this kind of alleviated the question we had last time, where we were, weren't quite sure on what to base our decision as to whether it was a substantial change or a minor modification yet. And he certainly gave us everything we needed to make that decision. Is that gonna be the process going forward, or we're
I
gonna
think
be
that was
looking?
what we decided on the last
Yeah,
one.
so-
that
I think we decided, yeah.
Just a minimum threshold inquiry to determine that there's no substantial.
Yeah, just like tonight, I would
Yeah.
like to see an informed person come
Right.
present the plans and tell us what they're doing.
Just so we agree with them that they're not making any substantial
Yeah,
changes.
And that's really, the building inspector is going, in these cases, if there's a change in height and the criterion are met, is going to issue it, but
Oh, okay. All right.
he is going,
The courtesy is.
he asked us to,
Yeah.
talk about
No, I
this,
think
discuss
it's
it.
good to have some process, you know.
You know, the one thing that I was discussing this with somebody else, and there's, there are situations, perhaps not even in Raleigh, where people object to the towers in general. So the fact that this allows them to modify without ever going back to the board does mean that something that's otherwise objectionable will continue to exist and extend its longevity as a result of the federal preemption.
Just for historical background, Gene will remember this. This tower was gonna be right on Daniels Road, right off of Daniels Road. And as a result of our negotiations, they eventually moved it to the present site, which is on town property, so. And there were a lot of people in the neighborhood that objected at that time, so, because it was a brand new cell tower.
I see. So maybe the town already deliberated, found a location that
Yeah.
being satisfied.
But, you know,
And there was also going to be another one right in a neighborhood off of Central Street
Mhm.
that created quite a bit of
Right.
objection.
Some are required to be
They never built
camouflaged,
it.
some of them have.
I've seen those tree one, yeah.
Tree
And
branches.
there was a lot of issues, and some of the issues are similar to what you brought up on the pad.
Mhm.
Um,
The sound.
It's the
yeah.
sound, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but it sounds like, I can't even picture this, where this location is, but I'll have to take a look.
No, it's behind Ayers Field a ways.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to walk back in the woods.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Well, then I think this process makes sense, although I'm sure,
You
well,
know,
the Vaughn Classic didn't mind coming up here. Nice opinion letter that wasn't really.
Right.
That was a little bit,
Yeah, well,
well, it's kind of the case by case.
Yeah.
We do have a bylaw, and we just have to respect it.
Sure.
Even though it's you, sir, preempted us.
Yeah, right.
And I would say that the law doesn't actually rule out having a process, it just says that you have to, basically you have to prove it.
Right.
in the end.
Meet the criteria, that's it.
And that's,
All right, this is, I see everybody came.
Yes.
You'll have to announce who you are, even though, no, for the camera. This is, again, a continuation of a discussion that, and I'm going to actually defer to Kirk. If you look at your notes for tonight's agenda, this is regarding 300 Newburyport Turnpike, Gels Group LLC, otherwise known as Raleigh Crossing. As part of a compliance review of approval conditions related to the certificate of occupancy permit for the proposed Frozen Swirls Yogurt Lounge, which is another tenant in the Raleigh Crossing. And as you recall, and what's also in your packet, there's a couple things related to this tonight. A5, A6, A7, actually A1 through 7. There has been, I'll let Kirk give a little bit of background, there has been, since our last meeting, some emails, in the meeting we asked for this. We also asked for the applicant and their team so to speak, whoever that team might be, owners, engineers, whoever, tenants, to come up, in particular the owners and their engineering team and contractors, to come up with a plan for complying for some of the unfinished work that was associated with the conditions and the initial permits. So that's, there has been an email from and some letters regarding that. The applicant has also been forwarded the O&M, or the operation and maintenance plan for the catch basins. They're going to be as well, because they requested that. And like I said, I'm going to turn it over to, the verbal discussions there has been some verbal discussions. You can kind of give a little more detail on that. The handouts that I think are going to be very relevant to this evening, which we're not going to get a great detail because it's really not our purview in the sense of the engineering part of it, but the concept of the fact that there should be compliant ADA standards met at the site for those people who are trying to access the tenants or the businesses at the site. And so that's why Kirk has done some more research on that. But I'm not going to get into the actual construction aspects of it, or the design aspects. That's on our purview. So you would get a little background on what happened since the last meeting,
Yeah, I
just
think,
briefly,
okay, I think,
and where your position is on where we can go tonight.
okay.
You know.
I believe the board remembers, like, from the last meeting, that, you know, that we expressed to the applicants that the board would work with them, but they would actually, prior to the next meeting, submit a schedule of improvements and a timeline for making those improvements. And so the first A1 is the email that they had sent on May 15th, which outlined their situation, and currently saying that they were experiencing financial hardship and asking for leniency in order to come to compliance. And 1 through 6 on that is their plan for doing that. So in conjunction with Larry Graham and with Curtis, we looked at this and decided that there were actually some priorities that really needed to be addressed, so we provided further clarification in response to this. And the second A2 is the email that I sent in order to provide that clarification. And basically with that, we had decided that probably the things that were the most important that they should address first were the two important things that they should address first was the installation of the fallen light post fixture, and then proper installation of the handicap ramps as indicated on the plan in accordance with the ADA requirements. And then the other things, 3 through 6, having to do with the parking area defects, the catch basins, installation of the dumpster pad improvements, the guardrail, that those were important, but that they could be put on a schedule and that we could have a timeline for approving or for complying to allow them time to comply with those improvements. So I think then I also with that email I sent the O&M plan, the operation and maintenance plan from the file.
That's A4.
Yeah, I included that on A4 just so everybody would know what it looked like. I won't go over all of these emails, but I guess I had also had a conversation. Mr. Silver came in and we had a conversation about, and you're going to get, I guess you'll want to actually have a chance to present your point of view. Well, he had discussed the issue of the handicap ramps, and this may be what you want to talk about tonight about the handicap ramps. And
Yeah.
probably should get into that, but when I looked at the site plan, I saw that there was handicap spaces that were dispersed along the front with access aisles and handicap access ramps from those aisles, providing an accessible route to each storefront business. I think from Mr. Silver's point of view, his belief was that he's maintaining that the way the plan was drawn was that those access handicap ramps adjacent to the access aisles were not actually ramps, but actually part of the sidewalk, the stoop and that the actual access route would be from the access aisle to either behind the parked vehicles to either side, where there are actually handicap ramps that are called out on the plan, and those ramps are in place. My contention is that and I checked with Larry Grain on this, it was his perception that those access aisles were adjacent to ramps that led to, that incorporated the accessible routes. And that I've reviewed these kind of plans before, and the symbols that are used on there do seem to be, I would have taken it as being access aisles and handicap ramps. And if you look at the research that I did from the ADA, almost every example that you find of a design for accessible parking involves an access aisle adjacent to a handicapped
You're talking
ramp.
about this area?
Yeah, this area, the access aisle, which is usually denoted by the hashed lines or diagonal lines. And
So how would a handicapped person get from the vehicle to the existing access ramp?
Not easily.
in
In-
this situation?
In the as-built situation?
Well, in the as-built situation, you would have to go from the access aisle out into the drive aisle and go behind the vehicles.
Okay.
And so I did some research on this, and this is and maybe I could just read you some of the stuff that I had found in regards to this, what the ADA has to say about. Each accessible parking space must be at least 96 inches, 8 feet wide, and shall have an adjacent access aisle. The accessible path of travel from the parking space to the building must start from the access aisle. Access aisles are to be kept clear of all obstructions at all times. I think you could interpret that to include vehicles as well, because you shouldn't, if you can help it,
Mhm.
have any conflicts with moving vehicles. Where buildings have multiple accessible entrances with adjacent parking, accessible parking spaces shall be dispersed and located near the accessible entrances. This usually means that the minimum number of accessible parking spaces must be exceeded in order to provide equal access to multiple entrances. When a business, state, or local government agency or other covered entities restripes a parking lot, it must provide accessible parking spaces as required by the ADA standards for accessible design. Failure to do so would violate the ADA. And then, this is actually the code on the ADA website. 502.3, access aisles shall adjoin an accessible route. 2 parking spaces shall be permitted to share a common access aisle. Accessible routes must connect parking spaces to accessible entrances. In parking facilities where the accessible route must cross vehicular travel lanes, marked crossings enhance pedestrian safety, particularly for people using wheelchairs and other mobility aids. Where possible, it is preferable that the accessible route not pass behind parked vehicles. So what they're talking about there is that if indeed the access route goes into the drive aisle, I think what they mean is crossing a drive aisle.
Right.
But in this situation, you basically have to have markings that delineate the access
The route
route.
to the ramp.
Yeah. And it also, 502.3.4, dealing with location, access aisles shall not overlap the vehicular way. and there's some other, accessible parking spaces must be located on the shortest accessible route of travel to an accessible facility entrance. Where buildings have multiple accessible entrances with adjacent parking, the accessible parking spaces must be dispersed. In this situation, they were dispersing the parking, the handicap parking along the front. And that's a situation, I think, that's called for here. But what I would argue is that without those handicap ramps, you're actually making the people using the handicap spaces taking the longest route possible to get to a longer route than they would have to if there were handicap ramps. If you really wanted to give them the shortest routes, you would move all the handicap spaces to either side. If you wanted to give them access to the ramps on the other side, you wouldn't put them in the middle. Like, I think that was the one that had the actual step. It is located in the middle of
Right.
of the facility. So,
I believe the ramp for Alta Patio is towards the side entrance to the building, correct?
Correct.
So, in other words, those parking spots should be closer to the rear of the building, if they were gonna be, closest to the ramp.
Yeah, we've had this, do I have to introduce myself?
But, no, I'm gonna talk to the clerk first. Is there any questions, because Kirk?
yeah, that was.
Well, I think one of the key things in my mind is that was very informative, but what is actually shown on the plan in terms of the location of things?
Well, Kirk mentioned,
And if,
and Larry
if
mentioned
it's
as well.
both Larry's and Kirk's opinion that the plan actually requires it, then that should be required.
And there's some liability issues here. I
Yeah.
mean, there's some exposure and
I
liability.
mean,
I think the plan shows,
Hold on, it's not
oh,
done.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be done tomorrow, but it has to be done at some point. I would think, whatever's shown on the plan has to be done. And there sounds like there are good reasons for what
Yeah.
The ramps are, we'll generate down here.
Remember one of those?
Oh, that was the
Yeah.
actual, that was the only one.
That's all right.
So the ramps currently are off to the side here and down here, right? So these spots don't have ramps. Gotcha, so we have to run behind those on the ramp around.
You don't even have an as-built plan, do you?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I mean, when I look at plans that don't really reflect
Yeah, so,
what's there, it's difficult for me to
Concerned about.
say
what's
this, because, I have to get, it's up to your engineer to show me what's actually been built, where it's been built, what the signage is, what, whether they're to the width that they're supposed to be, that sort of thing.
yeah, so,
It might be an ongoing process,
yeah,
so.
let me know when I can speak and I'll
All right, go ahead, Scott.
speak to it.
You have to say who you are and what your
I'm
relationship
Scott
is.
Silver,
to the-
Partners in Gels Group, owner of 300 Newburyport Turnpike.
Thanks.
So basically, when we started this whole process, you were here and you were here, and I don't know you folks, I know you, but a couple of years ago, we started this process, and they set out a certain amount of guidelines in order for us to open up the Mexican restaurant, i.e., handicap, access, signage, parking lot, striping, all that kind of stuff. We at that time had said, it's gonna take us a period of time in order to generate some income while we open these restaurants, because it was basically almost a vacant building. So we needed some time to get some money together in order to take care of all these requirements. Now, it's been some time, we've had two major vacancies. Kathy's Kitchen and the Montessori School had left. So that gave us kind of a couple holes in the building that we had to fill, and we tried a long time to get them filled. So we decided to open up our own businesses in order to pay the rent. So at this time, that plan right there that you have is the exact plan that we were told to build to. I.e. the signage, and Kurt was out, and he did not give us an occupancy permit, nobody did, until everything on that plan was taken care of. Nothing has changed, okay, according to that plan. Can I approach the... okay? So at the time, okay, it was all agreed upon, including with Larry, and you can go back.
I don't wanna go there with all what's agreed upon, what's not agreed upon, because,
Well, Kurt, we
I wanna
have
cut
to
to the
kind of,
chase.
a little bit.
no,
A little
because.
Because I want a history, because these
No,
folks...
but
are-
I'm also in the position where last meeting, I had two people, an owner and a new owner of a business, and not even having read in 2 years our permit, okay? And we even said, so, we're starting
What do
from
you
that
mean?
premise.
Tell me that.
In other words, the conditions that we're talking about,
Yeah,
we're saying, it was acknowledged that, where did those come from? So that's where we're starting from. So we're trying to work with you
right.
now that you've already acknowledged that, where did these conditions come from? So, and that,
I
that
haven't
was,
acknowledged
that was
anything.
it. Well,
I
you
haven't
said-
acknowledged anything with it. I know what conditions, what stipulations...
Well, and you
there is,
didn't
what
share it
you're
with your
right.
partners, because that was very clear to them, they're going, because we had a whole list upon our inspection by our review engineer,
Mhm,
our planner, and to some extent myself, because I'm familiar with this site,
mhm.
with all the conditions in writing that are unmet after 2 years. Okay, so I don't need the whole history. I want to go forward and work with you to go
Great.
forward. Okay, I don't need the whole history, and I'm not going to go through it tonight. Okay, because that's for engineers, building inspector, and yourself to work out. Your engineer, building inspector, and our review engineer. That's not where we're at tonight, okay? I don't want that. What I want is to find a mechanism, a roadmap, which I asked in the last meeting, a schedule that, and I asked you to prioritize, which our planner did do that. And our building inspector is on board with that, because these are the most liable situations, public safety issues that we're focusing on. I'm not gonna get into minutia, this, that, this sign there, this sign there. That's for the building inspector and you to work out. That's not what we do.
Perfect.
Okay?
So
I
let's
wanna
move
work
ahead.
with you.
Love it.
That's what I wanna do. I wanna work at, I have a memo from you that says 6 to 8 months,
Yeah.
but I still don't have, it says 6 to 8 months, but I don't have detail.
Well, what we've done in the meantime, and I told you I'd get it done, we've installed the new light pole,
Okay.
okay? That, the base of it was put in today, okay?
Well, that's good. So what do you do when the parking lot is out?
What do you mean?
You had some sonotubes in the parking lot. Did you take that away?
We had to rip the whole thing out.
So that
That's
foundation
that-
there is gone now?
It's gone.
What
Okay.
foundation?
We have a brand new...
You had a
The
sonotube there, but
base-
it got bent.
the base
Did it
tube-
get bent?
Oh, yeah, like 4 times. Someone hit
Even
it
after
4
you poured
times.
it each time?
Yeah. So
Okay.
we've paid 4 times to have it rebuilt. And I don't know why people keep hitting
This is for the
it.
base for the light?
Yeah, so it's like this big.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's,
Okay, and it's been hit a few times. So what Jesse Warren is doing our work for us, what he's come up with is we built the base tube today, okay? And we're gonna put steel columns
And where is
filled
that?
with concrete.
Where-
So the tube is still in the same area, but we're gonna put columns around it.
Like a bollard?
Bumper columns, yeah, yes,
Bollards, okay.
yeah.
Those are rubber coated, those cement, that people hit them.
So they hit them first.
They're iron
rather
pipes
than
like
you
4
know,
feet into the ground, and they don't look that ugly because they've been covered with rubber, with, the yellow
Yeah.
things you've seen?
I would have thought it would have been easy if you just put them on the edge of the parking lot. This way, the plows don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, you know
Don't
what?
have to worry about people hitting it.
We actually talked about that, putting it right here along this line, but the light coverage wasn't gonna be enough.
Okay, thank you. Thank
So
you for
when,
that.
because of the dual head light system, and it covers, right now it covers this area between here and here, and here and here, but if we put it here, we talked about, that would have been, that's what my first idea was,
Sure.
but he said, don't do it. He goes, leave it here, we'll surround it with something, so they'll
Are you
hit
losing
that.
any parking by building out those columns?
No, we're gonna keep them kinda tight within 2 inches off the,
Sure.
so they're gonna hit it, and hopefully they'll stop,
Right.
you know.
Let's hope.
It's
you know.
interesting that they always hit
But
this one,
I know, and they haven't hit the other two. So basically, are we gonna do it to the others? We might have to. Because I don't want this to happen again, because it's just costing us money.
Yeah.
So we're probably gonna end up doing that. I'm gonna talk to my partners about it and possibly put that, to do that. And the pad, we poured the pad today, did the excavation, poured the pad.
Dumpster?
Yep, for the dumpster.
That's not a public safety issue unless,
Well, I
That's
wanted
a
to get
good-
it off the list. He was there pouring concrete, so I said,
that's
"Look,
very
let's-
cool, that's great,
You know,
that's
so
great,
let's,
it's
let's
fantastic.
do that.
That's great.
I think that we talked about, I don't know if you folks talked about the bushes and so on and so forth. We can do that in the fall, possibly.
The plate,
Because we've gotten some prices for landscaping.
Yeah. 2 years
I have
would
no
be-
problem with it.
yeah, I mean, in 2 years it'd be nice if there was some effort to get landscape. I would like, I really don't wanna replace with boulders.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hang tight with a real landscape plan.
Yeah, we got some
Everyone
pricing
else,
done.
everyone else has done it in this town.
Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, but
I'm
you
blown
can
away.
you can phase it.
Well,
I mean, every
yeah.
time.
If you have a plan to replace some plantings with boulders in a way that really looks nice.
Yeah.
I think we'd wanna see it,
okay,
you know?
not a problem.
Right.
Because some of the boulders there are kind of nice granite stones and they look great. Maybe we surround them with some, perennials or something like that.
Right.
I mean, we're required of every business that comes on Route 1. I mean, otherwise the town, it gets really kind of, there are grandfathered businesses, but when the time that the planning board can ask for landscaping according to the new zoning is that when they come before us again.
Yeah,
And they do, and then they upgrade. We'll have people upgrade, right, up and down.
sure.
Up and down Route 1, but we'll work with you on that as well, but,
Okay.
there has to be, this is not the kind of site where we're holding surety or we're holding.
And you know what, you shouldn't have to, and we're not.
But
we're
no,
not-
we do in subdivisions and we don't get, and there's a reason for it, so landscaping gets finished. And curbing gets
We've
finished.
tried to honestly do everything we could possibly
And-
do financially. We
and-
could,
And it helps the people who live there. It's a visually, it helps your business.
no question. That's why we put so much money into
It
it.
helps
You
industrial.
remember the old property,
Sure.
Yeah,
so
so
we've tried
it
to
helps,
dress it
yeah,
up.
as you
Best
know.
we can.
Okay, so what else?
So the guardrail, I did want to bring up the guardrail with you.
You brought this up as a safety.
Well, I was more concerned about the entrance guardrail, that's split.
Yeah, we're gonna take that out,
I mean, that,
okay?
I don't think I wasn't here when the permit was granted, and I don't think it was required that it be removed or
It
or anyway
wasn't, but
substantially
it's an
altered.
eyesore
but
right now.
It's an eyesore, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you ever came in there on a snowy night. It's a little tricky to figure out which side you're even supposed to be on that thing.
Yeah,
You know?
Where is it, Scott?
it's right here, the in and out right here.
There's like,
So I thought-
Does
Does that
somebody
keep-
hit it like?
Does that
a few months
keep
back?
people from hitting each other going in and out, Cliff? I mean, is that a safety?
I don't know.
Fire? I mean,
You know, we haven't had any accidents so far, but somebody hit the thing
yeah,
recently.
Did they skid into it or just didn't see?
Not, and they were coming this way.
they were leaving the parking lot.
Oh, they were leaving.
Yeah. So maybe, we just went and spent some money to put some lighting in here.
Mhm.
We're gonna add some light poles here to light this median up.
With the, so you're gonna,
Did you say it was
You gotta
dark
take-
at night going in and out? Is that what you said?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we have some wiring in there now. We just ran some tubing.
So you'd leave the,
We're
you'd
gonna
leave
put a
that
pretty-
raised bed in there, or whatever that guardrail in there,
Yeah,
and then put
well,
the lighting in the center of it, or off to
in
the
the
side?
center of it.
Yeah.
In the center of it, it's gonna
But I
branch,
suppose that would,
you know?
so, I mean, it's something to delineate the fact that, which way traffic's supposed to flow
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that, you know? That would, I think, be helpful. And that's just been, not something you guys did, that was there before you got
Forever,
there. And
yeah.
it just seemed like a
Forever.
pretty poor design.
This thing's
at the
deep
time.
too. It's,
Oh, is that right?
it's deep,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll take a
Well,
little
they
bit
did it
getting
because
in.
of the cheapest way out.
You know,
Space that they had.
I don't know if the town did it at the time, or, because I can't imagine
No, it was
these
the
people
previous
putting
owners.
it.
They
Yeah,
did the previous-
Did they?
They did some funky things.
yeah, they sure did. So, down the road, we want to get that done. We've already purchased some light poles, some decorative light poles, and they look kind of nice, all kind of old
We
school.
passed that through, Larry, for safety, just in terms of egress, but just a safety issue on the original plan to keep it. Yeah, I don't,
Can we? Sure.
yeah, I would rather, yeah. I don't wanna go into it.
We don't, excuse me, what's
I have to
that?
look at the original permit or just touch.
So here's that
There may be a safety
existing
reason for it.
guardrail, right?
Yeah, yep.
And just look, something I pulled off of 128 and bent it around.
It looks like this guardrail, it's here. Kind of looks like the same thing,
Yeah, right,
you know?
right. And that's why you might think the
Same
town
too.
might have done it, because it looks certainly municipal.
Yeah,
Oh, Really?
Yeah.
it's very
As
commercial.
part of the
Yeah.
curb cut off of Route 1?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, just to keep the traffic flowing in and flowing
A little
out.
bit of a guardrail
Provided yet
front
there's
and down
a
east.
wide enough apron there that you don't necessarily need those guides,
That's right,
you know?
that's right.
So, but,
I mean, this area seems to be wide enough. I can't
Well,
understand
see-
why people are hitting it from this side.
Proper signage, but one thing people do not pay attention to, I don't know, especially in the winter or because paint fades or at night, is the arrows in and out. You know, people don't really
Right.
see. Striping in parking lots isn't the most effective way to get people to
Especially in New England.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So-
because it follows
to follow
fast.
traffic flow. You ever been in a parking garage, you know, or even Logan? I mean, people going every which way, you know. It's like-
And did the plan make,
It's like the exit, they're coming at you, going there.
is there a requirement in the plan for new signage? It's, Kurt's memo says,
Yeah, we
we'd
put
also
up all the
install signage
signs.
and or markings.
We put up all the signs that were required at the time. The only sign that we're gonna probably redo is the one in here, because somebody, I think, hit it.
Didn't you have some temporary ones that you did yourself that weren't in
We
compliance?
took them down and got all new ones.
That weren't in code compliance?
Yeah, we did 'em all.
Building inspector, because
They were actually pretty,
You
when
would
they
put-
looked nice.
you would put them in
Very
on
nice.
order. I know, but that again is between you and the building.
Yeah, we got all new ones, all really.
Because there are specs for signs?
Yeah, we got all the new ones. Yeah, the only one that's tilted right now is this one, because
Yeah, it
we had
happens.
this one, right, the big one here, and then we added another one in the middle, and somebody hit it or something, and it's just kind of listing a little bit. So when we do this, attack this, we're gonna do this up nicely, you know,
All right.
but,
In talking to Kirk, and if you look at Kirk's memo, I have the issues that and I'm gonna be blunt, that I would not approve, going forward with advising the building inspector that he, according to our permit, has to come before us before each new tenant goes in. Again, to get these checks as to progress with the conditions. But I think the safety conditions to me are paramount, that's all. The others, I think, and you've done one, you're doing some, and you have plans, but I'm not convinced that, again, we don't hold surety, remember, we always say we don't. That after 2 years, we could be having this discussion 2 years from now, and I really don't wanna have that.
yeah. So let me give you my take on this.
I don't wanna have that,
As it was proposed at the time. And I respect your thoughts and your expertise. But in a lot of these laws, these bylaws and laws, there's a lot of ambiguity and interpretation that could be skewed one way or the other, okay? At the time we did this, okay, these spots at no time, okay, were supposed to be handicap ramps, because we would have done them at the time. We would have had to have done them at the time. If you look at the agreement that was made, hold on, Kurt, give me 2 seconds, okay? If you look at the agreement that was made and what our path to opening occupancy for this restaurant and everything else we've done here was, it's in writing. In no way does it state here, here, and here. Now, I know your interpretation might show that, but at the time, when he gave us this plan,
do you have that in writing someplace? You're talking
you guys
about
have it in writing.
No, you have it. All it's in writing.
It's
you have
document, we have it somewhere in a file, but what I'm saying is,
So if you're gonna make a point, you need to back it up.
I think the
I'm
only
not
thing
gonna
that was
go,
issued
that was my initial point. You need to back these up. Everybody 2 years later has a memory of what happened this and that. I think the
got
major
you.
goal was an appreciation for you to take a distressed piece of property and invest a good amount of money into it to really improve it a lot.
Yeah.
And that is why you were allowed to, phase things over time,
Right.
according to, and plus, it was at a time when hopefully the market was turning around, you could start getting some tenants. And that had to do with parking lots in the back. It may or may not have to do with being able to have a ramp in the side, with the understanding that maybe the best handicap spots would be closer back here, because that was gonna be the parking, as you see the parking on that plan. So you may, for that time, for access for handicap, could put them there. But now that there's an established restaurant that is doing business, quite a bit of business, I think it's a liability issue, in my opinion. I may be totally wrong. But if someone in the winter had to go behind a car at a busy night and got hurt, or couldn't get in the building, or got hurt trying to go to that ramp, I'm not gonna be a person, I'll tell you right now,
Right.
that's going to to not have access to that building near those access aisles, near that, I don't care if, that is in the right place, because that's near the entrance to your major tenant, the
Mhm.
most busy
And
restaurant.
so is this one.
Okay? So, but I'm saying, what is being utilized the most on site right now?
Walk up.
The Mexican restaurant, right?
Yes, yes,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
Okay?
And maybe
that's-
it'll take us
that-
to put a handicap sign here, a handicap space here, so they can just go right around to the ramp.
Yeah,
Maybe that's all it would take. And I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to kill my keep taking away
Well,
parking.
Yeah, but there's no, well, we haven't, well, you have plenty of parking. We haven't caused you to put it in.
What I'm saying
Plan
is,
for it.
we had talked,
But I'm saying, it's a safety issue. He read from the Department of Justice
Yeah.
and the code.
Right.
Now, the code, as I agree with you, every town there's ambiguities. And building inspectors interpret it
especially the
different
ADA
ways.
code, is
You're
very
a
ambiguous.
contractor, you're in the business, and
Yeah.
you know it.
Yep.
However, as a planning board member, I can't go to sleep at night knowing that somebody has to walk behind a car to get in a Mexican restaurant.
Sure. Listen,
And there's,
I get
there's
you.
no signage. It's not gonna happen. I'm not voting.
I get that. I get everything you're saying. I totally do. What I'm saying is at the time that we did this,
Yeah.
because it does go back because we wouldn't have been able to get these permits done. At the time we did this, if you look at this plan, there's clearly a step right here. It's not a ramp, it's a
I
step.
cannot say that.
It's also the one to the side.
Yeah, the one to the
access
side. That's
yeah.
not,
Yeah, so this says concrete handicap ramp
I'm
here.
not an engineer.
This one says, hold on, if Larry were here, we would talk about it.
But you're, as a owner,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Again, it's your responsibility to read all the permits you get, all the conditions, to plan for them.
Sure.
It's your responsibility to comply with federal law, which is the ADA. It's not for us to lead any developer or any person by the hand as to what to do. If you think it's a conscionable thing, if you think where it is now works out for your business but doesn't work out according to a professional planner who's researched it, and now you're in front of us asking for an occupancy permit where we can have this discussion, we're having the discussion. I'm not going back 2 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay? And the discussion is now we have a busy restaurant. Okay, I want it to maintain busy for all people, for access for all people.
Mhm.
If it's signage and can be the best compliance within the ambiguity of the law, then do it.
Okay.
There's no sign there that says handicap ramp around the corner, is there?
If that's what you want, that's what I'll do.
But is there a space that's closer to the?
I can put it.
I know I would not be allowed to do it. I've been
Well,
told to put.
I think at the end of the day, the spot where it is with the curb in front of it isn't an ADA compliant spot. So as a
That's
result.
why it's there.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
it's,
I mean, it's not
no,
that-
it's there because it's closest to the entrance. That's why it's there.
So I think it seems to me like, despite the ambiguity in the plan, the ramp should be there.
I was under the
Well,
understanding that you put that ramp there so that people who are eating, there could be handicapped access when they open up the outdoor seating. I don't really
No.
see how a wheelchair is, that's what I was told. It was just easier for people to get to the
These
outdoor seating.
markings were for loading, for unloading, like the vans pull up
Yeah.
Right.
and unload.
But you-
Okay, that-
just because of building in the past also, that building was really not built, as you know, it wasn't very ADA anything at that time.
Nothing in this town is ADA. So I
That's
don't want to be
the
held to a
point.
totally different standard, Kurt. I need, this is what I need to do,
You're not,
okay?
no, I don't want it. I'm not going there.
This is what I need to
You
do.
have a
Okay.
vigorous restaurant, and every new restaurant that gets put in any town.
There's no
becomes
question.
ADA
Thank God we have a
compliant.
biggest restaurant, because we'd be in trouble if we didn't.
Mhm.
And it's not that vigorous, because there's never any parking out back, like we thought,
Which is good.
which is not good.
Well, it's not-
Because the
it's
restaurant
good- it's
really
good.
isn't doing as well as everybody thinks.
No,
But
but
regardless of that,
it's
they're paying the rent.
good in the
that's what we
sense that
need.
we didn't trigger those other things at this time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which is great. So what I want to do is come up with a plan. I got to get these two businesses open, okay? If we can have a meeting of the minds.
what's the second one? The convenience store?
Convenience store, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think we've started in good faith a lot of the stuff that you kind of want. If you read his descriptions of some of the ADA stuff, getting back to the handicap stuff, it said when possible, an aisle to the handicap way, handicap ramp, would be preferable not to go behind spaces when possible.
Yeah,
Obviously, this isn't possible at the
but
time.
it actually says that if you're going to do that, then you would have to have delineate an accessible route from that point.
Sure, and that can be marked, denoted in any number of ways,
Which you
correct?
see that quite often in
Yeah.
multi-tenant use.
Yeah.
I mean, and get to recollect what Kirk said about what the ADA said. You can delineate a way, but it can't be parallel to an existing travel way, right?
Yeah, I think the access aisle can't occupy it.
Can the delineated way go behind parked cars?
It says the way it read is that.
It says
I'm
it's
not
not-
trying to tell you,
I know, it just
I'm trying
says
to figure
it's
out
not-
what's gonna work for you.
It's not preferable.
Yeah, but it's
Let me read the
allowable.
actual.
I remember what he said,
I mean, what,
right there, it's on that page. yeah.
See, accessible routes must connect parking spaces to accessible entrances. In parking facilities where accessible route must cross vehicular traffic lanes, marked
Cross the
crossings enhance pedestrian safety, particularly for people using wheelchairs and other mobility aids.
They're talking about crossing a lane, not going
Not-
alongside or
yeah.
behind cars.
Yeah.
And you would think that that would be safe,
yeah.
Either way, it's not safe, right? I mean,
But I think the
Well,
last sentence, though, is what you were talking about.
Right.
Where possible, it is preferable that the accessible route not pass behind parked vehicles.
correct.
Well,
I remember you didn't want to pour, you're worried about parking. The parking's not as huge an issue, but you were worried to, you have to go up not too much height, or do you, to get to the platform to get in that restaurant?
This
I
here,
can't picture it.
it's about, what is it, 20 inches max?
What's that?
The height from the grade to the platform? 20 inches?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about 20 inches, you know.
But there's,
Quarter
but
inch per-
it's too high to get a ramp somehow from the.
Well, we could
from-
never have a ramp here.
Yeah, okay.
You could never have a ramp here. Possibly one here, but it's just so narrow here.
You can't have a ramp that takes up a couple, they can't.
Right.
It's-
Right, it
it's
can't come
just-
out of the
it
parking
just-
lot.
It never, you know,
The
when
rise and the run don't,
it doesn't
work
work.
to get
The
20
numbers don't
inches.
work. No,
I mean,
that's why we put it over here. And we have this
even
one
that you
here.
would worry about, that's, but.
I mean, this is a long run, you know, quarter inch.
Wow.
That's a long run. So basically where we're
It
at,
can't come out and take up two spots where it, goes up to a turn platform, then goes, like, you can't get 10 inches out of, to get 10 inches, how many linear feet do you need?
it's a quarter inch per foot, so it's quarter, so you're gonna need 12 feet, 13 feet? Quarter inch foot, yeah.
Well, the van accessible.
No, you're gonna need more than that. You'll need,
Yeah.
you'll need almost 14, 15 feet for that. I mean, and that will eat this up. This is a long run right here.
Those are 13 feet long, those spots?
These?
Yeah.
I don't know what they are.
Well, you should-
I don't know what they are right now. They gotta be
Whatever,
minimum 13
I
feet,
can look it up, but
probably 12.
I think
Oh,
fancy.
the,
What's a car, 15
ADA
feet?
spots.
Four.
ADA has to be a little longer, I think.
What do you say, a quarter inch by foot?
Depending, yeah.
Ramp design.
Ramp design, yeah. Because if you go with this
Space
design,
width for van.
Is that what, is that code, quarter inch a foot?
That's up, again, we're having a discussion, that's up to your engineer.
well, I want to talk to Larry about it.
We're not engineers, but I'm just telling you where I am, I'm not, it's conditional upon that being resolved in my mind.
Well, what I need to do,
We can write a memo to the building inspector saying that you're met, and you're gonna come forth with a schedule,
yeah,
the 6 to 8 months, whatever, or you're gonna
Yeah.
give a schedule
yeah.
of what's gonna be done.
And in the meantime,
Uh,
figure out the handicap thing in the meantime, but I need to get this business, preferably this one, open quickly, so we can pay for it. Because right now, we've had zero income.
which business are you talking about?
Yogurt place first, and this is further down the line a little
Right.
bit.
How much down the line?
Probably another month or so,
Yeah.
a month and a half.
Do you think you'd be able to address the ADA issues within a month?
Probably not a month, but what we could do is maybe get together with Larry. I can call him personally and say, Larry, what can we do to figure out a process where we can come into compliance, and then in the meantime, kind of work on. By the way, this guardrail can't go here. This is where all our snow goes.
But you're gonna work that out with Larry.
Yeah.
It's also a Concom, you can't put snow there. That is not a snow storage area, and will never become a snow storage area, because it's run off to Bachelor Brook. And
Well,
which
right
is run
here,
off to the
yeah.
Mill River,
Right
so
here,
that's
yeah.
not happening.
Yeah.
Because you don't, dirty snow does not
Well,
go.
it's all being piled up right here, right now.
I'm just telling you that you can
Yeah.
take that up with the conservation, you
Yeah.
wanna. And that's where your drainage goes, and dirty snow does not go into
Yeah.
your drainage without any kind of treatment.
Yeah.
No town will let you do that. I mean, they don't, that's why they don't, you know, maybe in extenuating circumstances, that's why the snow is piled up in parking lots and it goes into catch basins with sumps.
Mhm.
Occasionally, it gets carted off to places of unknown origin, unknown, maybe pushed in the, you saw what happened when the contractor pushed in the Merrimack this
Yeah.
winter?
Yeah.
What was his fine?
Yeah. I don't know.
50,
Yeah.
he pushed it into the
Yeah.
Merrimack and got fined immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not happening. You wanna do new snow storage, then you'll be back to us with another plan, and you will approve it. So, maybe, I mean, in the back,
So at this point, though, we have a commitment for you to work on the entranceway,
Yeah.
and to, I mean, and to deal with the public safety issues first. The entranceway and the ADA issues are what are the priorities.
So we've done the light pole, we've done the pad.
Right.
is the pole going up?
Tomorrow.
Is it wired?
Tomorrow, Friday.
It's wired,
It's all wired, yeah.
I
so
mean,
we'll have lighting.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I'm thinking is, allow the occupancy permit for the yogurt swirls, you know, immediately or once the light pole goes up, so that could be as soon as Friday. And then, you know, kind of let you know we're holding back on the convenience store until we get a little more action on the, and recognizing you have, no, I mean, I'm just trying.
What I'll need though is a plan, because we need to generate some funds in order to finish all this stuff.
That's up
Sure.
to-
Which-
that's-
which-
That's up
which-
to you, to give us a plan, that's what I asked.
I'll give you a plan on where we think we can put a handicap ramp here, or maybe improve some of the other situations, or maybe we do what we talked about,
Mhm.
you know, marking this, and then we'll have.
So, I mean, if you were to mark, this is your handicap
Yes.
spot, and then put a trail down here,
Right,
that would
That would
probably,
help.
You need to submit a sketch to the building inspector, and he would have to sign off on
okay, all right.
but I mean,
That's a change.
that at least
Okay.
gets you into the restaurant, which is your main tenant.
Right.
Now, as far as, I mean, this ramp here, what comes
That's,
up,
that goes right into this, I mean, this
and
comes right
yet the
on.
nearest handicap spot is here,
Here, yeah.
and these are,
And here.
there's that wooden deck
There's
there,
another one
right?
here. Well, we took the wooden deck out because
Okay,
it was
okay.
so hazardous.
Sure.
Killing people.
So, I mean, could you put these spaces down here, or is that gonna impede?
Well, we have one here, but we need to maintain some spaces for people parking here. The Pizza Factory, I don't know if they'd be happy with that.
No, right.
Well,
Well, then we-
we
you
still
give it-
doesn't
I mean,
any spaces.
You would give it, you
Right.
could potentially give this one up for them.
But are there?
You know what I've been through.
I'm saying, but there are none, that's just, yes.
There are none,
Okay.
it's, you know, it's,
Okay, there are none, that's it, leave it at that.
yeah.
Kurt, can I ask
But
you,
there
I
are
mean, you know, and I'm not relying solely on your comments here, but anytime you deviate from the approved plan, you may be running into a major modification issue, in which case you'd have to come back with a special permit and all those things. Now, you say that in regard to even boulders as opposed to
I
landscaping.
thought that was a major.
These are field changes, don't even,
Well, I know, but
in
at
all
the same
due
time,
respect, we're not going into major modifications.
Oh, of course we're not, but if we're
We're
saying
just
that,
complying.
if we're saying that, if we switch out rocks from shrubs, we may be, you know, and this is the advice you've given them, if you switch out rocks for shrubs or shrubs for rocks, you may have to come back for a major modification. We're now asking
I
them
don't
to.
agree with that.
We're
I
not
don't
giving-
either.
Well, we're not giving him any advice,
Well,
there's
I'm
no
sorry,
advice.
there was a memo from the,
No,
That's a
that was a
one-time.
request, that was a request to us.
from the planner.
No,
So what I'm
No,
saying is, I
no,
don't wanna
no.
have this guy go out here with the impression that if he
No.
moves the parking spot, he then
I
therefore
just
has to
said-
come back to us for a modification.
I just said that wasn't the case. if there's anything to do with handicap striping or handicapped access, you simply should get that, you know, we made our point.
Mhm.
This is what we're dealing with now. We have a restaurant that's operating, and I'm not, and we have information as to that, you know, everybody was working the best, you worked with the best with what you had at that time, but now we're 2
We're still
years,
trying to.
now we're 2 years later. I have to respect your professionalism, your plan, your ability to have an engineer who knows code. I mean, the ball is really in your court. We're not telling you to do anything, okay? We're saying we have a permit with conditions,
Right.
okay?
So what I need
that
is
have
a
been met.
little,
We're not gonna tell you to do anything. You know what you have to do. What we're asking for is under the hardship that you have portrayed to us, that you have told us, we're trying to work with you so that that hardship is taken into account, as I'm sure it happened in numerous places.
Well, but the issue here is he
But-
wants to open his yogurt lounge.
And that is the issue,
tomorrow.
and that was the issue. Well,
So,
the issue
what
is.
do we do about that? I mean,
Well, how do you approve an opening of that and nothing else? How do you just approve just that alone?
Because that's what the special permit
The
currently
permit
says.
says every time a
Alright,
new
okay,
tenant.
whether it's done or it ain't done, okay? And my thing is, when push comes to shove, somebody falls down, breaks a leg, gets hit by a car, now the lawyers come in, the lawsuits come in. Well, here's my certificate of occupancy right here. Who gave that?
Landlord
Oh,
said-
Planning Board did. Oh, let's go talk to them then.
well, but if,
but the liability's on me.
yeah, the liability's
It's not- it's
primarily
not-
on.
I got a lawsuit on me right
And on
now
the
from
bill.
being on this board.
Yeah, well,
Well, but I mean,
well,
But
we've all been there.
Well, you
They're
know,
not, sure they're not against you.
it's
Yeah.
nominally against us.
my name's on it.
Yeah, right, but
You
it's-
make it, that was the point I prefaced this conversation with, that it's a public safety issue that I really don't want to be.
But if they're on my property, they get hurt on my property.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
look, don't even go there. Let's
I'm
let's
liable.
not all play lawyer, you know,
Well-
this is not law and order tonight.
I don't want to hold him up for the yogurt factory until all these issues are resolved, because I think that's going to be a long time. And, you know, the warm weather's coming, hopefully, and I'm sure you guys want to get going. So I think we need to show a little bit of flexibility. And also, we know that you've got other tenants that you want to put in there down the road, so we still, it's not like we're, you know, if we allow the yogurt place to open, that we lose all our leverage. Our leverage
As long as it's
remains.
vacant, you're gonna have a difficult time attracting anybody, so,
That's,
sure you-
that's been our problem. That's why we
You
couldn't,
make a
we
good
couldn't get.
commercial real estate point that the death spiral happens when you know, you don't have.
Yeah.
so, I mean, we want,
So how do we get to a fairly soon issuance of the permit for the yogurt place, and a commitment and timetable to do everything that's required? And
I
if you
can,
want to change something that's required by the plan, you will consider that, but you have to come back to us with, and show us what the change is gonna be. But, I mean, how do we get there?
well,
mean,
I can, you know,
I don't see an as-built right now. This plan isn't even reflect what's out there necessarily, okay? Maybe. So I think he has to take what he has now and have a viable plan to the building inspector for compliance with that.
And you can't open the yogurt place before that happens? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
You
that.
don't have to,
I
but
know, I know I don't have to.
I'm not saying it takes time to build it, but I don't see.
Kurt, what I need to do is I need to get this open. I'll give you a plan, comprehensive plan of what we want to do to try to rectify any of the ADA, compliance issues that we have going on.
Well, you need to address all of the issues
Yeah.
identified by Kirk and Larry.
Right, and we've done some of them already.
And a timeframe, and,
Yeah.
He asked for 6 to 8 months in his memo.
and, you know, the landscaping in the fall is fine. You know, I mean, I started.
We've gone out of our way. All I'm saying also that this is not only us. I mean, there's issues. The building inspector ultimately gives out COs, not us. Okay, we had this for a reason in the permit, and this was the reason. This triggered exactly what we feared might occur. Okay, that there would be a last-minute rush instead of communication during the process. We haven't gone anywhere. Okay, and this came to fore because, and I know I don't sound it, but I'm very sympathetic. When someone wants to open a business tomorrow and they're ready, and they go, oh, this permit says I can't do that. Well, you know,
Can I address that?
but I'm saying, all I'm saying, the reason I'm bringing it up, not because of that, I'm saying when the convenience store is happening, maybe a little bit of communication prior to that, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's not the night before you wanna open it.
I have, that's great, I have no problem with that. What I'm saying is, when I applied for these two permits, okay,
Which permit?
I sat for the yogurt and this, I sat before
The
you,
building permit.
I
okay?
don't know what you're talking about.
This permit, the building permit, here, for the yogurt shop.
We don't give out building.
Well, you didn't sit
You
before
don't,
us.
well, we came in before that, at the time, I said, this is what we plan on doing, opening these two businesses. When we open these businesses, are we gonna have any issues? I talked to you at the time. What are-
Again, I don't, Scott, it's irrelevant. It's
It's
very,
relevant to
very,
me
it's very
because I'm-
clear. Read it again and read it 100 times. Okay, that there was a reason, we wanted to phase this for money issues, for revenue issues, because you had a lot of work to do, to work with the building inspector, you know, because it was a multiple tenanted building,
Right.
that there was a lot of site work that needed to be done.
Yeah.
There are many towns that would have said you can't open one business till all the site work's done. All of it, right to the T. That wasn't this town. And now we're living with that 2 years later. We have drainage that's going into undone catch basins. There are some towns that say, none, you can't open up any business till the site work's done. But we did this way, so it would trigger
I think
as time went on, that's all.
some recognition has to be given to the fact that this wasn't a brand new development. This was
That's what I'm
something, there
saying.
wasn't even, an existing building that had a lot of problems that wasn't even covered by an approved site plan, as far as we all know, and.
Which is why it's totally phased, Cliff, over years. We're phasing
So,
over years.
you know,
So if
By the
I
time
give
this
you
is
a
in
plan
compliance, it'll be 4 or 5 years.
of timeframe when we can address these issues,
But you don't have to, those can't be necessarily hard and fast, because it's dependent on your revenue, it's dependent on your plans.
and that's the problem I've been having. You know, we tried to do the best we could with whatever we had coming in to try to keep improving baby steps on this property. And I think we've done a pretty good job with the revenue that we've had. You know, we've put
We
it.
have to take you at good faith on that, okay? This is a board, after 20 years on boards, okay? I take that in good faith, and I am very, but I'm saying, that's not always the case. It's a team that you have in place, and you simply have to come in and go by a professional process with your profession, you know, with your engineers, and go through the process, okay? And when we give you, and when we have an approved date, then meet it. And if you can't meet it, you say, you know, I'm done, oh, you know, because I don't know where your money goes, I don't know, and that's not us, this is a process, okay? I want you, I agree with Cliff to the extent that it's vital in what you're saying, to have this open, so that this can start growing, and I want that to happen.
Can I actually,
Go ahead.
David Jaquith actually had made a suggestion involving, and I don't know if you guys have done this before, but using a temporary CO with a 90-day window, so giving them maybe 90 days to address certain issues like the handicap.
That's the building inspector's call. It's that whether a temp CO, we're not, that's not something that we can even advise on.
Well,
We can.
I mean,
It's a good idea.
I understand that. I'd like to make a motion here to try to just move it along.
yeah, please do.
I move that, subject to the verification that the light post has been installed, that we allow the Frozen Swirls occupancy permit to issue. And that standalone motion, I have another point I'd like to raise in a second motion to follow, but.
That's a standalone?
That's a standalone.
Well, I think I'd like to add to that
Are you making a new motion?
well,
You can amend, he can withdraw that.
subject
If you-
to the construction of the
No.
light post, is that what you're saying?
No,
Yeah.
it's not a motion from two people, they want to.
No, I'm, all right, I'm making a motion. I move it
Well, there's no
subject,
second then, so.
subject to the completion of the construction of the light post, as we've discussed, and the submission of a timetable which adequately addresses all outstanding items. The chairman will be authorized to issue an occupancy permit, or to recommend that the building inspector issue an occupancy permit for the yogurt lounge only.
According to our according
And,
to our
if-
order, certificate of vote, whatever,
Right.
or special permits.
I'd second that motion.
I'm relatively new to the board. Of course, you haven't met me. My name is Stephen Gazziotis.
Scott.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
And believe me, I like to roll out a red carpet for all businesses coming to town, because I want to see the town grow with business rather than residential. But anyways,
Is this discussion on the motion?
no, well, it's what, yeah, it is, matter of fact. Is what I'm gonna say is we're relatively new. I'm gonna go with what my colleagues think is the right thing to do.
Okay, that's discussion.
If they
Thank
say
you for
yes,
giving-
then I'm with them.
That was a motion by Cliff Pierce, a second by Chris Thornton.
So let me just make sure. it's
Yeah,
okay
you
that
wanna
I
read
got it.
that back?
That, subject to completion of the
Read it back.
installation
Say
of
it
the
to him
light.
again, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
want to rephrase it again so he gets it,
Who, me?
the motion, yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that.
Well, yeah.
Subject to the completion of the light post
Mhm.
and the submission of a plan that addresses each of the outstanding items and prioritizes the completion of such items,
Okay.
that the board will recommend that a occupancy permit be issued for the lounge, of the yogurt lounge only.
Okay, what about the part about the chairman being authorized to?
I'm not being authorized, no, that's not part of the.
That's not part, okay.
So I'll have
Well,
that
So it'll have to come back.
plan to occur.
The reason I said that is I don't want to hold you up until the board has a
Next
next
meeting, right.
meeting.
Right,
And
so
so-
I should have that
Okay.
plan to occur,
That's true, because I work with the planners,
Right.
as chairman.
so I can get that on your desk tomorrow at some point in
Yeah,
time.
so-
Right, it'll speed it up.
Cliff
So
is-
once we get
Cliff
the
is correct-
schedule-
Cliff is correct in that I'm the direct I'm supervising the planner, so.
So once we get the schedule and I confirm that the light is installed, then Curtis can make that call.
And you get the timetable.
And the timetable.
Plan of correction, whatever you want to call it.
Just, and not to further modify your already seconded motion, but we're talking about a timetable that is completed within 6 to 8 months as we, as you previously
It can
proposed.
be a slider too, and have construction tables,
Yeah,
Yeah.
bar graph. I'm
yeah.
not saying, okay, because that gives you, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think at some point in time, maybe we do a site walk or something before this happens, and I show you guys my challenges in the front.
Sure.
You know,
Give
all
us-
of us.
I mean,
And I don't mind doing that, as long as I can get these folks open, and,
You need to give this some real thought.
Hopefully something miraculous will happen. They'll all be beating down your
Okay.
door by the end of the week, and
Do you
they'll
have a
have a
vote on
place
that?
full.
We have a vote before, we have a vote on this.
we got our
Yeah.
thought.
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor of Cliff Pierce's motion to allow, to advise the building inspector that swirls, the planning board recommends that a CO be issued.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? I abstain.
Good.
Okay. And,
Congratulations.
just a word of advice, you have two excellent memos from the town planner and from Larry Graham, expressing their concerns, like Larry mentions which items should be prioritized. I mean, you should really look at those suggestions or recommendations in crafting your.
yeah, no, I think they're very valid points.
Try to, stick with what they're recommending.
And it seems really likely that you're gonna be back in here in a couple of weeks to
Right.
talk
Yeah.
about the convenience store. So if
Yeah.
you wanna come in and, I mean, if you're ready at that point, great. If you wanna come in and informally
Okay.
discuss which way, you should be going, because I think, I'm all for you getting that space rented out, as quickly as you can, but at the same time, I think the ADA issue's gotta get dealt with.
Yeah.
And I understand why you're having, trouble figuring out what the plan means relative to what the federal law means, but that's where your engineers come
And
in.
there's grandfathering issues.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
the whole thing about ADA compliance, some buildings, you don't have to get compliant right away, even if, so.
Right.
But if you think
You have to work
bet-
with the building
If you
inspector.
think you have a better way of doing it, let us know, and we'll have Larry look at it, and we'll decide.
Yeah, I mean, maybe at some point in time, we
Just
can
riff
grab
around,
Ken,
yeah.
and we can all go around and talk to Larry, and
But do you have an engineer?
I have one, but I might,
Do you have someone who can,
Sure.
no,
whenever possible. I mean, sometimes you just can't.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
seems
can't retrofit a building, like,
There
you're not
seems
gonna
some
retrofit this
leeway
building,
it's gotta be.
it's not cost effective. we're sitting in a building that's completely not ADA compliant. You know,
Well,
so it's
upstairs,
not-
and it's not going to be upstairs.
Yeah,
I
and,
mean,
you know,
now
so
that you're
so it's
getting
like
it
you try to
downstairs-
work, you try to work with what you have, and that's what we've done with this building.
But a restaurant, you know, restaurants are grandfathered to an extent, but once they do major renovations at a certain percentage, which you did, you gutted the place, which is why you triggered, you understand? You got it, that was a whole new restaurant, you know, you started triggering.
Yeah, well, they gutted it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
Not us.
but well, you're still, that's,
Yeah,
you
yeah, I know what
trigger,
you're saying.
Have
so,
that yellow dot.
so you trigger at certain points.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
I
so
mean, we
that's
still
gonna,
haven't.
what's the timeline, so you know you're gonna communicate with?
Yeah, I'm gonna have that on his desk tomorrow, so hopefully you can sign off the timeline.
I want, you know, I want these businesses, I want to get I think convenience store is a good spot for it, I would hope. If you can get, I don't know, is there liquor and wine, I don't
I
know.
hope.
Are you
Any more
yourself
licenses
opening
for
these
that?
businesses yourself?
I'm not opening the middle one, no. No, I'm opening this one,
For yourself?
yeah.
What happened to,
Gotcha.
the tutoring place?
They couldn't make it happen. We thought we had a good tenant there, and they just didn't, they couldn't make it happen.
That's a nationwide thing too, isn't it?
It's Sullivan, not Sylvan.
Oh, okay.
It's a small- That's what I thought.
Sully's tutoring.
I thought there were deep pockets
That's his
there.
name.
I thought there were real deep pockets, but
They wanted
apparently
it for a song, huh?
yeah,
Oh, that doesn't really help
it's really not leasable anyway, so
upstairs.
yeah, it's just cost too much. We don't have any money. We don't have any money. So
Well, you brought that to our attention, and we're gonna take that into account each time, and it's,
so
we'll do so.
my partner Shelley will have that on your desk tomorrow at some point in time.
Okay.
Okay, it'll be pretty detailed. Because I know.
Well, it doesn't, but slide, but you're not putting like December 23rd.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, I get it.
it's getting, it's just, it's.
I just have to think of the value of each thing,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
try to figure out what I can take. You know, because right now we're barely making the rent. You know, so with maybe with this business we can
Oh, you
kind
mean
of
the note on the building.
the note on the building.
Yeah. The note. okay.
The slide, I mean, that entranceway, I don't know what you can do out there. I'm interested to see what you do to address it, because it just seems a little bit like it's an obstacle waiting to get hit sometimes.
Yeah, well, Max and I have talked about it, and we have a couple of plans to beautify it and make it look a little nice and light it up.
Yeah, something that just
Yeah.
makes it more obviously there, you know,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
reflection, you
So,
know.
sure.
But I'm sure Larry
Make it
may
more
have some
obvious. That's a
comments.
good idea to make it
Yeah,
obvious.
make it obvious. Yeah,
Yeah.
not with paint, but we're
Right.
talking about
But there
reflecting.
hasn't been issues with
Yeah.
accidents or anything like that, has there? With
Yeah,
people
someone
hitting
hit
each
it
other?
already.
No,
But no,
hit-
not coming
hitting
in.
each
There hasn't
other.
been any accidents here at all.
They got
No,
just
somebody
tape out there.
somebody had extra margarita or something and hit it.
I'm guessing that has something to do with the light post
I know it's
too.
Yeah.
official, can you also touch base with your, a butter,
Yankee? Yeah,
just in terms of,
they're fine. They're good.
in terms of the drainage?
Yeah. Yep.
Because the
Yeah.
drainage isn't really piped off the building, it's more comes off. It's
Off
not
the
all
roof.
piped, right?
The roof line comes off the roof line.
Right.
There's a somewhat of a catch basin system over here, the retention pond there. So all this water kind of drains this way, and there's a big drain here that goes underground.
Yeah, because we have received, just, you know, notification to our planner. that does-
Yeah, no, I talked to them. I talked to Dave and all those guys about this.
And I encourage you to work with the building inspector through this process.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Ken's been great. You know, he's just trying to play by the rules. So,
So this
We're all
can be,
set?
so this can happen, like you said, by Friday or even
Yeah.
tomorrow.
we'll get the light pole up tomorrow, and
Is the cement dry?
yeah, cement's drying right now. We have a picture of it if you need to see it.
Because all it does is rain.
Yeah, but it's a chemical-based product, as you know. It'll dry right up. I don't know if it'll be strong enough tomorrow
I'd
to put
wait.
the pole up.
I'd wait.
Yeah,
I did concrete for 35
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
Trust me
yeah,
when I tell you.
yeah.
You know, we
I'll
put,
take your advice.
Even
on
with
that.
all the dope they put in it.
Yeah, I'll take your advice on that.
you know, we put around our light, our sonotubes, you know, our foundations for the lights, we put it around this, you know, the Cultec unit, you know, with the rubber,
Oh,
the
yeah.
corrugated.
Oh, yeah.
And we put that around the cement, so when cars hit it, they bounce, so, because when they hit the cement, they chip it.
Mhm.
Chip
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
So we put that around each stanchion.
I think those
So
little
far, it's
poles
held
will
up
help.
well.
Those
It's
little
it's
poles.
protected the concrete, that's what we do, so.
The first
Right.
time a big truck hit it.
Probably-
So, thank you.
I'm actually, I'm here tomorrow, but not Friday.
Paint them orange,
Exactly.
and put them in.
All right.
Those
Okay.
goes along the concrete, paint them orange after you put them in.
Paint 'em orange?
I would.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At least, you know, they'll stick a look, it's sort of thumb.
You know, yeah, I mean, maybe there's a different reflective paint I can use on that.
This
That looks it more attractive.
This
Yeah,
reflective,
aesthetically orange is
I
a
want-
little dig.
this reflective tape, you see it on the side of tractor trailers.
go on with the
It's
agendas.
law that they have them on there. All tractor trailers have them. You can buy them in any model that have that reflective tape.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
I'm glad.
Good luck at the rest
Thank
of
you.
the place, Scott.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Hopefully see you guys down at the plaza sometime, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my staff report,
Is this time for Gene?
We have those
I just need to-
balusters around the telephone pole
Was this-
next to our
you wanted
mailbox.
right?
The telephone pole carries the
Okay.
electrical wires
Is it- do you need
to the
this too?
treatment plant.
Oh,
So they put up those
No.
things around the telephone pole to keep people from hitting
okay,
it.
okay.
Well, that's good.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Have a
They're
good night.
yellow.
Coming in.
Paint them yellow.
I
He
can't
he checks
imagine,
my mailbox too.
I can't imagine how many trucks have gone down that road.
Yeah.
I don't want to count, but
Is
I'll
that
tell you, I
operational
could
now?
dust every day. Oh, no.
That's not operational.
No,
is it?
no, they have a list that they have to.
The floor is yours, man.
Gene, front and center.
Gene, come on down.
Yeah. You know, it was weird
We
sitting.
wanted to give you
Oh
a
my
proper
gosh!
send-off
Oh my gosh, you guys!
for your
Oh,
many years of
Beautiful.
oh my,
hard work.
oh. Oh, this is so nice.
From all of
I'm
us,
stunned.
and Katrina, and Kirk,
Oh, thank you.
to you,
Going to embarrass you a second
Yeah.
time before the.
and also,
No.
and Mr. Kovalchuk, who was here for a brief
I'll
time.
miss it tonight.
Also
Oh,
got to know
thank
you.
I have to admit, the card was my wife's idea. You have to give a card, you know, what's
Oh,
wrong
I
with
love
you?
your
Are you a
She's
curmudgeon?
nice. Do I dare to open this?
I just want to thank you publicly and also for the audience at home for, what, 11 years of
Yeah.
public service to the town of Raleigh, lending a perspective and giving representation from a constituency in Raleigh that, you know, certainly appreciates open space and sound planning and doing the right thing for people who like to recreate on horses, of course.
Yeah.
But also,
With their children and.
and in particular also, a lot of these boards are filled with men, and they need women. And they do, and they
Yeah,
need
that's true.
smart, and that's too bad. We had more, especially in planning, conservation. It's just it gives a point of view that is very necessary for us to make the right decisions, and you were part of that, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Do I dare to open this?
Yes.
I dare, okay. I bet Claire wrapped this.
It's safer for home viewing.
How can you tell?
Yeah, is it for home viewing?
If it was me, it'd be newspaper.
Well, you know, I've been riding around town on my sabbatical time off since the election. And I was telling Cliff, it's really nice when you see some of the projects that were done so well. And then some of the things we could have done better, but mostly the things we did well.
There are also things that didn't happen because of the planning
Because
board
of, yeah.
that are interesting to contemplate from time to time as you drive around town.
That's probably a reason they shouldn't have. It's always easier sometimes to start and just ravage a place and start over, and that's the places that never,
Right.
instead of having planning, you have.
Well, like the cell tower on Daniels Road that I was referring to.
Oh, absolutely. And
Not
I'm not sure,
happening
you know,
because of
the neighborhood would have developed the same way if there was a big cell tower.
Well, it would be a less attractive.
Oh,
area.
yeah, right.
Oh, and it has horses on it too. Oh my gosh, this is
That
so
a planning board may
nice.
taste, or actually a particular wife of a planning board member.
Oh, that is so nice.
Well, we
How'd you like
we
it?
knew about your love of horses.
Oh,
And this reads, in appreciation for your service to the Raleigh Planning Board. So,
oh, that is beautiful.
It's
Not bad.
Golly, am I lucky? What a lucky woman. So just because I'm so lucky, I'm gonna come back and hound you as the associate member soon.
Yes, it's a great idea. So,
You want to discuss your qualifications for the position?
Quiz me.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
just like
Thank you very
stunned.
much.
so you'll be submitting your letter to the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, probably tomorrow
Okay.
or Friday morning.
Well-
And then we'll see what they,
I'll definitely be at that meeting. I'm sure others will come aboard.
you don't let, I suppose
Is
they'll
that this
know.
coming Monday then?
Is it?
I don't know,
You don't
because
know.
if I give them the letter, I don't know what they'll,
Yeah,
when
right.
they'll put me on the agenda.
They need 48 hours too.
Yeah, right.
So,
We'll just let Kurt know and, so let us all know when the
Okay.
meeting is.
Oh, wow, I'm stunned. Wow.
I'm
I
very-
recommend that people go for the planning board. Not only is it fun, they're beautiful flowers.
I'll
Thank you very
Well,
much.
classy gift for a classy person.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks again.
I was just.
Thanks for hanging in there and such an enlightening evening.
Yeah, well, that was interesting. Because, it's really tough to make decisions sometimes. You're trying to help people do the best that they can, and you're trying to keep people safe.
Right.
Kind of like society in general, isn't it?
I suppose that's,
Are we still on camera?
yes, we are.
All right, so we're going on.
Uh,
It's kind of rude, isn't it? Get up.
No one's telling her to get up.
I just,
But if you'd like to leave, you will.
I may, all righty.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you
I'll go
very
out-
much.
I'll go out with you, I'll help.
Thank you, Gene.
Oh. I've learned a lot, too. So be careful,
Get your
Chris, it gets in your blood.
Well,
We don't get intermissions.
I think I caught it for 5 years anyhow, so.
All right,
Need some help?
It's commercial time.
Do you want me to get that for you?
I'm good. Thank you,
Bye-bye, Gene.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
all righty.
Now we have to sit here uncomfortably while we're on camera, twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Couldn't run a commercial.
That's right.
We could do a commercial for something
We
like
just got minutes. I could be the act as deputy chair.
Oh.
But I'm sure I'll be right. We just got
Yeah,
minutes,
for
right?
five.
Do we have 3 minutes to review? Because I only saw,
Oh, that, everything else is, project updates,
oh,
minutes. Oh, I did insert this one item, that- just as a informational, having to do with the,
Kirk, back to that, all this stuff is very new to me, and also not entirely, Curtis wants us to think that you don't speak for the board, and I guess you don't because you're an employee of the town and not an elected member of the board, yet I'm sure a consumer of your services understands that you do speak for the board, or at least in the impression that you do, you know?
yeah.
So, and that's why when he comes in here and says, I'm stuck with this plan, this is what was approved,
Mhm.
and so that's what he seems to have built to, or attempted to build to the
Yeah.
extent that he's done any improvements with the lot.
Yeah.
The comment, that you made that if you wanted to put rocks instead of plants, you may have to come get back before the board for a modification of that plan.
Yeah, that,
I mean, I think that would intimidate him from thinking that he could do anything with the parking lot, because, he doesn't necessarily want to have to come back here for a public hearing after submitting a new
yeah.
site plan review application.
Well, I don't want him to think where we gave him an inch that he gets a mile now either, you know what I mean? And
I think you're absolutely right,
you know,
and that's why,
He like to go do what he wants now.
I mean, I think I wanted to, you can't really,
Well, the other thing is 2 years. Come on, I mean, you got full-blown projects. The golf course is one of them. A year. Look what all he's done.
and this is the distinction between a guy, that project, the golf course, they had deep pockets to do this. I think these folks are on a slightly different, I mean, I think
Right,
it's a
but
small.
2 years is still a little much.
Yeah, but I can see where financially, he needs some cooperation from us,
Like
or
you
else he
said,
could end
lost a couple
up,
of tenants
you
too,
know,
which I'm
right.
sure that.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between a brand-new development and taking over an
Yeah,
existing
yeah, that's
substandard
the-
facility.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's, but for the fact that we have this ability to review these plans when there's a change of ownership or a change of use,
Yeah.
you know, we'd never be able to touch some of those places on Route 1. Yet some of those places on Route 1 really need some site plan review, for lack of a better word, you know, and
Right.
they're grandfathered. So, I mean, Curtis is right, we need to, you know, when they do come in, that's our opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think we have to recognize that if this guy doesn't get some cooperation from us, the next move may be a vacant building,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And frankly, the new Mexican place in Ipswich will present some competition for this one.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the switch?
Yeah.
Well, I just came back from,
Yeah, but I think to your point that you started on, I think a reference to the major modification,
Oh, yeah.
I think probably the better way to say it is that the board may require,
Right.
may consider this a major modification,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because I could
How did I
see,
put it? Did I?
I think you said like it is.
It is a major.
So I could see that,
Yeah, you
that could
keep it,
discourage
keep
someone,
it,
well, I
yeah.
guess we're not gonna do that,
Yeah.
I don't wanna get involved with that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's
And I
not
don't-
only
I don't-
comment, I mean, I just.
And I don't think that it is, I don't think changing a landscaping plan is, you know, it's.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially when we get into the detail, we're picking specimens. I mean,
Yeah, right.
some specimens aren't always available, some aren't appropriate for the climate, some may just be cost prohibitive.
Or
Yeah.
adding a few boulders or something, if you do a nice job of
Because
it.
landscaping is expensive.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
as you know.
Well,
All right, can we, move on?
Thank you for doing,
Oh.
you and Claire for, thank you very much.
yeah, thanks, this thing should, that went very nicely.
I think she liked it.
Very much so. Do you have any project updates you want to talk about?
No,
All
I
right,
just.
thanks, that was good. Bills payable? No.
I do have my time.
You always nice to ring out, don't you?
I did. I had it
No.
actually in sort of
that's-
this, just like having to do. I
That's
don't.
good.
You probably don't
That's
want to bring. No need to bring.
No, thank you for your project, so, no.
And then minutes.
Anything else besides, not much is really happening, so.
Oh, I.
Then we can, no, well, I'll sign this. Next, did anybody bring a calendar? Since
Just
we
on my
get,
phone.
we're getting into the summer where people start doing things, it might be a little harder to
made
get
copies of this.
dates, but, you know, we can all get together again.
Did I sign that? No, it's okay, I just.
You did?
Yeah.
All right. No, I can bring that up briefly, just that, there was a memo from, anyways, there's been a little bit of a paper trail regarding, some damage to a pool, by an abutter to the, Raleigh Country Club. Kirk will be, just writing a memo, you know, just reflecting his correspondence with the abutter. The fire department has also weighed in. As Kirk had mentioned, the blasting rules are governed by the state and the contractor. And so there are some, just so you can read it, it's pretty self-explanatory, there's some memos and emails going back and forth. It's really not something that is, we regulate in our permit, but we would be willing, you know, we can be a conduit and be here and try to help in any way we can, but that's it, because, you know, we're just working with the other boards, that's all. But it's primarily the fire department,
Yeah.
the day-to-day
Okay.
blasting.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's why that memo's in there.
Which
I'm
exhibit was
working with
that?
Kurt, so.
I
And you know, you brought it up last meeting.
Right, no, I just curious to see what the,
So there is,
Gregorio had to
so
say.
the reason I'm even bringing it up, because of course I'm gonna bring something up that's in our exhibits.
C1.
It is C1, it is in the exhibits, but it's not something that, we're discussing any further, so,
Gotcha.
at this time. Is that okay?
Should bring you up to not talk about it?
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Well, I just want to make a point
No,
that
no.
there's some, yeah. I'm not gonna- So I am working with, I'm working with Kirk and the town, so. All right, Cliff, you're the minutes guy.
Okay, minutes of March 19. Take those up first. Just got a couple comments. Does everyone have those?
This is great, I printed out, didn't
On
even.
on the first page is a discussion of the town meeting zoning article. It says Bryant reads the legal advertisement, but there's no mention in here that this was a public hearing, so you need to say,
All these pages.
the heading
I wasn't
should,
here on the 19th, so
the
this is
heading
all
should
yours.
be public hearing for a town meeting article, and then maybe after Bryant reads the legal advertisement, you could say the board voted to open the public hearing.
Okay.
Number 2, the same minutes.
I put page numbers this time.
Yeah, good, I noticed that. Page 3, the discussion of Mahaffey Lane and the 1,500 square foot threshold specified by the zoning bylaw. Can you put a section, the section number for the zoning bylaw?
Okay.
So it'll be this.
And that's a comment for the future too, when this,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, you should zero in on the section.
and I imagine you need the citations in it.
And then this, on the same page, the second line from the bottom, there's a word missing where you said, that the planning board has no, I think it should be issue with CBS. So that's that. If I can move on.
Wait. Cliff, go back to that, that's a long sentence.
At the second to last line on page 3,
Where's the serious issue?
where you see that the planning board has no with, there's a word missing.
Right here.
You want-
The planning board has no width,
So no issue with.
no issue. There's no issue.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, now if I can move on to the April 22 minutes.
It's embarrassing. I have it, huh?
Well, I thought I had some comments on it, but I have nothing on those are fine.
Kirk, just, my name is THORNTON.
Did I?
That's all right, the members,
And
Oh.
also, I believe Scott is Silva, Silva, not Silver.
Are you sure? Because the letter that I thought it was Silva at the beginning, and then there was a memo that first memo they sent had.
All right, just check on that
Just
later.
check on it.
Okay.
Don't worry.
It's S-T-E-V-H-E-N, not
So-
S-T-E-V-E.
If I can make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
Not quite yet.
not quite yet.
so.
Oh, right
I
here.
wasn't even there. Of course you make a motion on that one.
Yeah, Scott Silver, he signed it.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the minutes for March 19
So amended, yeah.
and April 22 with the amendments discussed for the March 19 minutes.
I'll second.
Oh,
I can
and
second
what was
Yeah.
the second part about the March?
Both.
Okay.
We're approved, it's for both, but with the amendments made for March 19.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get the, I didn't find the April 30 minutes in my packet.
I was still working on those.
Okay,
I just
that's what I wanna
couldn't
hear.
get it done. I'm sorry about
No,
that.
they weren't in mine either, so.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
No, wait a sec. Bills payable, those are done. Revolving account, just to make a note that typically on something like Larry going out and doing these periodic inspections on a individual project such as the Raleigh Crossing, he'll be, that doesn't come out of our account. Okay, so he'll be also billing the applicant for those visits.
So,
But it's not something, that's why we don't really we don't hold, because we don't know what that invoice is going to be.
Mhm.
So whatever Larry charges for his time that he takes for him to deal with this project. That
I
gets.
thought
So
all
you
this-
goes them directly for that?
No,
Okay.
No,
No,
it
he
it
sends
gets,
us an invoice.
I thought-
revolving account kind of triggered it. It goes into the revolving account and then we write a check to Larry.
I thought all this work was built to the applicant.
Unless we request it. We do have a budget where we do request him to do some projects, like we requested him to help out with DeMolis, that sort of thing. So, you know, there are.
yeah, and some work involves not just one applicant, you know, involves an issue that's common to, you know, to a lot of applicants.
And we can even ask him on this, if we ask him to follow up on some of these ADA and to talk to the building inspector, this might be a good case where we can spend some budget time if Larry has the time to collaborate, to help, you know, to go beyond the scope so we can get this done right, so. The motion adjourned?
I'll make that motion.
It's good.
Second?
Second by Steve. All's in favor?
All right.